Yay!
Oh, so that's me. Hello, coffee beans, and welcome back to Esports and Coffee. We are happy to stop by, so grab your mug. Do y'all have a mug?
I do. Well, I've got a giant ass
Okay,
water
that's
bottle.
good. Good. That's good enough, as long as it's a cup. Of your favorite beverage, grab a comfy chair and stay a while. I am one of your head baristas, Danielle, and assisting me with brewing our coffee tonight, we have some special guests with us. So we are excited to step up this quarter's stream. Today's topic is mental health check-in, and as because it's May, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, which I didn't know. So, uh, because I'm bad at checking in on my own mental health, that's why. This time of year is always so tough as we wrap up our seasons in this spring and our seasons and some of our beans prepare to graduate or have graduated. I think they all graduated on the epic day of May the 4th. So may the force be with them as they enter adult world. You got this, kids. We'll write you all reference letters. So we want to do a good check-in and check in our wellness goals. So uh, I got lost, Jackie. I'm sorry. I was doing so
You're
great.
doing
Don't
great.
judge
It's
me,
fine.
Sarah. Before we start sipping on our topic tonight, let's pass the mug over to Jackie for some quick housekeeping.
Well, we just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. But reminder, if you're not in our Discord, you should be. It's already the middle of May. It's May 15th. I can't believe it. There's a lot of conventions coming up. If you don't know about some of those, we have our convention and conference channel in there. Make sure to check it out. Go to NACAD. NACE is coming up. A couple other ones. But then just, join the Discord, join the discussions. We have a lot of good things happening. It's mental health awareness, and then everyone's always checking in on their wellness. And so join the Discord. There's always a party in there.
Yeah, we got fun topics like one good thing Wednesday. And today is Wednesday. So our one good thing right now is that we're all together. Oh, how precious. That wasn't on the script, Sari, so I just made that up. So you may have noticed we have a few more friends here today. It's more than normal. So let's do some introductions. I'll start, and when I'm done, I'll throw it to the next panelist. And then you guys do the same until everyone is gone. Sounds good? So here we go. Obviously, I am Danielle Sarikis. I am one of the founders of Esports and Coffee, and I have moved to sunny Florida and won't shut up about it. And I love the ocean. And that's all I'm going to say. So I am going to pass it over to our friend Jason.
Hello, I'm Jason. I am El Jefe of Collegiate FGC, CFGC, rocking out in Iowa, Midwest best, no coast, no kings.
Oh,
As far as living right now, I took a 6 hour nap after work last night, so that kind of ruined everything. And then I'm still reeling from a high school girl that I teach telling me I'm built like Wreck-It Ralph. So we're doing.
oh. Hashtag winning. That's the Charlie Sheen meme.
Let's go, Beth.
Hi, I am Beth, and I am a mother of two teenagers, and I even went back to school um, at Full Sail University for my game business and esports bachelor's degree. I've been in marketing for a while and just decided, I guess I'm going back.
That leaves me.
Okay.
Uh,
Yep.
oh, my name's John O'Eden. Born and raised in Michigan, staying in Michigan right now. Love having all my friends and family close. Best state for collegiate esports, and I'd argue high school esports as well. So you guys can fight me on that.
I'll end it. I'm Jackie Lamb. I am the current STEM esports TOSA for Minneapolis Public School Districts, and I am also a head barista. Um, okay, where are we? Okay, so mental health. We always want to do a check-in. So we're just coming back from a little bit of a break, and I think it's good to just kind of do a mental health check-in with everyone. So we want to thank you all to come in, and we have a couple questions we're going to ask you tonight. And I always like to start with Twitter, just because it's where we all kind of live, and we all like to post things and comment. Um, And one thing this past semester is I know several people commenting on Discords and social media about mental health. It's kind of the end of the year topic. People are getting burnt out. There's a lot of discussion going about it. And one thing that really stuck out with me was Clerky posted about Christmas and rosters. I can't remember exactly, but he kind of made it sound like he wished that he could get them done sooner, kind of like that work-life balance, and that really stuck out to me. So I kind of want to start there and see where you are right now with your work-life balance and how we can help each other during this time, like this time of the semester with the burnouts with everyone, and see how you can help out with that drain.
Anybody? I mean, I can talk about it, but I feel like one of you should talk first.
Yeah, for me, a big part of it is just knowing Scholastic kind of just follows an ebb and a flow. There's going to be weeks where I'm working way more than I should be and way more than I'm getting paid for, and there's going to be weeks where it's a bit chiller and we can kind of tend to relax. So just keeping that in mind when we are going through those tough weeks, that it is you're going to be able to get that time to de-stress, and you have to prioritize it. Make sure your bosses know, like, hey, for me, like if I've worked a lot of weekends. 9 of my first 11 weekends here at Michigan State, I worked. We either traveled or did an event for one of them. So I was going like crazy, and we didn't have even a day off because I kind of joined in the middle of the semester. So what that means is this summer I'll be having a lot more like Fridays off, half days here and there, to kind of de-stress. But even during that time, I made sure that I still stayed in touch with my friends. Even before this, I was actually just went into my Discord to like fix my camera, and one of my friends like hopped in the voice chat within 30 seconds of me joining. So part of that is building the community of people that help you de-stress and help you kind of have that fun time, and making sure that you maintain those relationships and stay there. So I just laughed, and he's just like, hey, you look like a boomer, trying to figure out FaceTime. But for me, it was nice to know that like within a minute of me even just hopping in a voice channel, someone can notice and kind of come in to say hi.
Yeah, Jono and I are going to play video games together eventually. It's on the agenda. um, I will say I'm a lot less burnt out than I was at my former institution. I can tell you I didn't necessarily recognize it right away. I don't think I recognized it until I moved. And I tend to my burnout looks a lot different than a lot of people. It's probably because I have undiagnosed ADD, which it's basically just like instead of stopping, I just continue to work harder and harder and harder and stop taking care of myself and stop checking in with people outside of work, which is not very healthy. And so moving down here, I have been able to prioritize my health, do things for myself, which is a lot different, or literally just come home and sit on the couch and twiddle my thumbs. That sounds silly, but it's kind of like a luxury I never felt like I had. So it's beautiful to kind of recognize. It's hard to recognize at first, too.
I do something very similar to you, but I have a set time where I tell myself I cannot work past this time. So I have to keep myself somewhat organized. That way I don't burn myself out with school and working and trying to volunteer and kids and all that. So organization kind of helps.
I'm absolutely toast right now. I just finished up the 10 weeks of CFGC, Albie and I, so that's like 4 nights a week of us doing our thing, plus the full-time job during the day, which is split between like English as a second language and tech integration. So my day is answering Canvas LMS questions and then translating things into like 14 languages, and then picking up the first time of entering like teaching in a college classroom and learning that and the way a whole new school does things. And so I caught myself like Sunday, like, hey, my high school stuff's up in 2 weeks. I got to get these kids their grades in so they know where they sit. And I was up to like 3 a.m, got 2 hours of sleep, grinded out till yesterday, and then just came home like, I'll take a half-hour nap, and then crashed till 11, and then was up in the middle of the night. And today I'm here. And so part of that is knowing that like, hey, these 3 things intersected in just a rough time. So get through this, right? Because I know the grind doesn't last. But during these times, there's a few things I rely on. Like I can't come down and game during those times because I'll be like, hey, I'm going to set 2 hours just again. I just want to hang out, but then I end up working, and so I can't do that, right? And so there's two things I do. Is one, I prioritize time with my wife because she makes me happy, and I enjoy just listening to her shenanigans at her job. And then I watched a TikTok a while back that said when you're really down spot, just huff a cat. I have 3 of them, so I just be grabbing them bad boys up all the time and just going to town. But that's where I'm at, and so getting through it, finished up the second one now, and then get the sale for a little bit. So
And you get a
About-
vacation. Sorry,
Mhm.
Jackie, go ahead.
Go, Jonna, go ahead.
So I would say at my previous institution, half of my job was learning management system admin for Canvas. So it was Canvas all morning from 8 till like 3, and then esports from 3 to 11. So I totally relate. And yes, I'm very thankful to be in a spot where it's esports 100% of the time.
Oh yeah, this is my last year teaching, so I'm in a good spot financially to where I can like try to prioritize CFGC and then do Harrisburg stuff, and so that'll take a huge load off of not people asking me how they can combine their courses 1,400 times a day. So
Yeah.
I think a huge part of like work-life balance and mental health is figuring out what work-life balance is. And I know in esports, especially for people when they're new to it, they don't know how to ask what that is. And I know that several directors or assistant directors or whatever titles they're coming in, they kind of come in and they just do everything. So when you came into your jobs, did you, like Johnny, you said that you worked all those weekends. Did you come in just expecting that? Did you know what it was? Like you weren't really going to have that life, and now you've got it. Like what were those expectations like up front, or was it just kind of like laid out on you?
Yeah, I came in like in midway through the semester, which is always tough. I came in like week 5 or 6. So when I was at my previous institution, I actually was working more. Where I was, because I had basically 2 full-time jobs. It's one job, but I wanted to commit, like I wanted to do the best job I could, so I spent a lot of time on both. And I ended up, my assistant director ended up like becoming homeless and moving in with me, and he like we were in the lab 24/7, almost every day. We were there. I was doing 16-hour days, like 6 days a week most weeks, and it just got to a point where I was like, I don't want to keep doing this, but I don't want to sacrifice what we're doing, like I feel what we're doing is important. But I got a new opportunity to come into this new job, and that's not going to be what it's like forever. We just launched a new facility on campus, and so I'm the only person with the keys. And when you lock it, it physically slides like a bolt into the floor. So I can't just like lock it and then like leave and like, hey, leave when you leave. Like I have to physically be there to lock it at the end of the night. And we were training up kind of student staff, and I also am the photographer for our crew. So I was going to we traveled to different tournaments for every one of those weekends. And so that's not what it's going to be long term. It's just because I kind of came in at a very transitionary time, and when we were opening new facilities, a lot of those, like when it would be like, hey, can you work a weekend here or a weekend there, kind of tacked on in a row. But it was very upfront, and it was actually kind of nice because it was new, fresh places, and less hours than I was putting in consistently at my previous work. So
I think we all kind of just get lost in the sauce, so to speak, where, like you said, Jono, you're doing this great thing, and you're like, I just a few more minutes, just a few more minutes. I'll just do this for a little bit longer, and then next thing you know, it's been a few hours. And some of us, I don't know how many came in. I was an hourly employee before I started esports, and then I became a salary employee. So not only did I transition that way, like if we remove esports salary, I tell people, I have an assistant. She's also a workaholic, and I always tell her to kind of like track your hours, start to pay attention to how much time you're putting in. So I think that's my best advice for everyone is like, start checking, tracking. So I always say, I bring it up probably every other stream, and I probably should figure out who said it, but somebody had said much wiser than me, that there's no emergencies in esports. Yes, there's a couple emergencies, but they're really not any emergencies in esports. So it is okay to pause and leave it for tomorrow. It's not, we're all at the beginning. We're all trying to figure it out. I think having a good group of people you can talk to too helps. Like Jackie was trying to get at, I think. Jackie and I in the beginning would chat very frequently, and we are like, are we doing this right? I don't know if I'm doing this right. And I mean, obviously we did it right, but like at the time we don't, you don't know. And another thing is like it's also okay to say no to panels. I think that's what I've learned as well is like if I have worked a ridiculous amount of hours, you can turn down people. Tell them, hey, I'm not able to. I don't have the capacity. So it's not
That one-
scary. Go ahead.
That was one thing I learned when I first, like, my very first entry into like some kind of organized esports was at high school, and I didn't know how to say no to like the kids and the parents who wanted to do like every single game in the world, and the consequence of that was Monday through Friday night and Saturday, plus like having the full time teaching job, and once we moved after that, after a couple of years, I was like, yeah, I don't think I can say yes anymore. And then I took a college position, and that I lied to myself because the first 6 months I was at that position, I technically didn't have a home either, and so I was staying with couch surfing friends and in my car, and so the place I could be at was in the lab, so I was there from like 8 a.m. to like 10 o'clock at night, which just opened a door for everyone to ask everything. So it's taken me a while too. Unlike these last couple of weeks, I usually have a pretty solid balance of I'm gonna do me to build
I think
up
a
that
lot of
energy to give out to others.
I think a lot of it as well. It has to come. My previous boss said it has like work-life balance, making sure you're out by 5, like has to come from above. If your expectation from your bosses is keep doing more, like you're just gonna kind of naturally flow into that. So my previous boss was very good about sending me home or telling me to go home, and sometimes I would be like, no, right? There's stuff they have to do. But he was very good about the weeks where we weren't being really crazy. He was like, hey, you work this weekend, take these 2 days off. You work a Saturday, take this day off. And my current employers have the HR was very clear. If you work over 40 hours a week, we have to pay you overtime unless you take flex time, and we don't want to pay you extra. So please just, take that flex time, which I would rather have anyways, right? So sometimes I push that flex time to the next week or the week after, but make sure that you are like holding these institutions accountable. And as much as I love doing extra work and putting extra time in, my 50,000 person institution doesn't need donated time and effort. I want to make sure what I'm doing is good, but I'm also going to make sure that they're compensating me fairly for it.
True story. Here. So, I guess the next question, we kind of touched on it, and I don't know if there's like a one-stop shop answer for this, but I guess, how are you handling the burnout? And then, a lot of our students towards the end of the semester absolutely get burnt out. So what are some of the signs you think we could do to like stop that or not stop it, because I don't think they're going to ever stop it. We'd be millionaires, billionaires. And so I guess what are some signs that your students you think are getting burned out, and things you can do? I have to do a better job at doing like check-ins on them, and not just check-ins like how is your grade, like literally just bring them in and let them kind of lead the conversation, do one-on-ones, and whatever they feel they want to tell me. Some of them aren't going to tell me anything because they're 18 and young, a lot of young boys, but you can try. Any thoughts, guys?
I think for me, I'm the one who's in this space at my current institution and the last institution. My office is either attached to the space or in the space itself. So I just get to be there kind of naturally with them, talking and joking. That's a big part that kind of keeps me energized, is talking and seeing the students. So the thing I developed over the long term at my previous institution was developing schedules that stayed consistent throughout the year, that like, hey, we're not going to put extra practices going into playoff season because I know that's when your final exams and your big month-long projects are starting to build up, right? I know like you want to compete in this, you want to do this, we want to be the best team we can, but like this is when burnout's going to happen, and here's how we can avoid that. Because the first year or two, I let them do that, and they got burnt out, and it was a total nightmare. So then I've started instituting longer-term policies over time, where it's just like, hey, I know this is what's about to happen. I know you say it's not. Every kid who's 18, 19, me included, said like, oh, I'm different. I'm better than that. It's not going to happen to me. But I would start to enact stricter policies going towards the later part of the semester. And just getting to know them and like seeing and identifying if they're burnt out. I've sat kids because they've been trying to do too much, and it's just like, hey, no, you can't right now. Like, go chill. Like, you have to like focus on the other stuff so you can be a little bit less burnt out.
Beth, can I pitch this to you? Because like I know Full Sail's like an absolute hustle. Like y'all work part of everyone else while also being a mom. Like how do you handle?
I have to put everything into a calendar. Everything goes in the calendar, whether it's a lecture, whether it's bringing the kids to school and home, whether it's going to webinars or whatever. I put everything into a calendar. It's how it keeps me organized. And then it also reminds me, like, things like, don't forget to drink water. You know, don't forget to stand up, get away from the computer for a minute. And I do the same thing with my kids. Like, I'll hear maybe one of them getting irritated at a game. I'm just like, okay, this is when you stop. And you take a minute, walk away, go watch an anime. Like they're like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Go watch something, then come back to it. Or play a different game. Just for like 20, 30 minutes. Then go back. Now you have fresh eyes. And I do the exact same thing, whether it be getting my assignments done, which I know we mentioned this before. I just got an assignment done about 2 hours ago, even though it's due tonight. Should I have done that? No. But sometimes we just make it work. But another thing is making sure you eat. I know a lot of times you get into that grind and you just forget. So we putting alarms in your phone, and it just kind of keeps you so you can keep yourself in check.
Hey, can you teach me your ways? Because I need to be that organized. That's amazing.
It takes a while.
Type A.
I really struggled with a set schedule. I'm a very much whatever I have to do for the day, whether it be a doctor's appointment or go to work, I want it to be the first thing that happens in that day. Mm-hmm. So if I work at 2 p.m., I'm going to get up at noon, eat breakfast, and then go to work at 2 p.m. And so that what that happens a lot of times is I get in these weird schedules. But this past month, I've really got into like waking up at the same time every day, including weekends, like working out in the morning. And I hate cardio. I hate doing that stuff. But like one of my friends is big into working out, and it was like, hey, just get up before work out, and like it'll change your life. And I was like, I'm gonna prove to you that it's stupid and wrong, and that I'm gonna hate it. And I did it for 2 weeks, and I was like, I actually really like this, and it makes me feel a lot better. And I'm so mad at you for being right, because I wanted this to not work. And just being consistent on it. Do I go every day? No. Is there days where I slip on it? Sure, but like it's not 100. Like if it's worth doing, it's worth doing 10%. So like if you're super depressed and you just can only brush your teeth for 10 seconds, like still take those 10 seconds and go do it. I'd always heard my life, like if it's worth doing, it's worth doing 100%. So I'm like, well, if I can't give 100%, I may as well not do it. That's not the case. If you only give 10%, but it gets you a little bit better every day. Like I have to keep that mentality and like keep on it.
So, okay. So what do you do when you're like, Johnny, you said that your facility, it's locked, and like at Ferris, it wasn't locked.
They had key card. The students had key cards, and Kyle was there to just.
So like at MNSU, like our students, they had key card access, and we had DG Leap, so we could stop them from using it, but we didn't. They technically had 24 access, but we're like, if you could get off by 11, that's kind of our policy. But then we would have students who would be there till 4 a.m. the next day, or we had students who, their senior year, it's like they're so burnt out that they're dropping out. They're like, I'm done. The last like 3 weeks before the end, they're like, I'm just done now. It's like, how do you combat that burnout? Like, because they're playing so much, and it's just we don't have we just don't have someone there to physically tell them to get off. Like they're adults, but at like what point do we help them, or how do we guide them to? At
Ferris, we paid lab monitors to be there from noon to midnight, and at midnight they said get out. At 12:01, like they were turning computers off. Like the kids would try to push it, like, "Well, I'm in a ranked game," and we told them that we gave them the first 2 days we were open. We gave them like, "Hey, leeway." They were out 15 minutes later, but then I started telling the lag monitors like, "You can turn the computers off," and they're like, "What?" And I was like, one of the like a couple of the kids were like previous security guards and stuff, and I'm like, "We've told them," and so like the first time they turned the computers off on anybody. That kid went and told everybody, and they were miraculously done with all of the ranked games by midnight from then on. So I think setting that hard policy. I'm someone who I would have wanted to be in there past midnight, and I would have been very thankful if someone physically just stopped me from doing it. So that was kind of our solution to that was, yeah, we want you to be in here all the time. We want the space to get used. Nothing really good happens in a university space that's open to everybody after midnight, so I'm just forcing you to get out of here.
Our GG Leap is set to a timer, so like midnight shuts everybody off. We also have students that monitor it, and pretty much that's when they go home, so everybody's kicked out. Our employees have access with key cards, but not our like our we have a community center, so it's general students can get in during our hours of operation, and then the team would get in, but they don't have access to the building outside of those hours unless we let them in. So, but that's not even the problem. I think the problem, to like Jackie was talking about, I think our problem, all of esports, is most of them have PCs at home, and we can't monitor what they're doing at home. I guess we could just keep preaching to them, but that's the difficult part. I know my team, we're going to work on like not work life balance. Yes, we are, but activities outside of the esports facility and esports in general, just doing like team bonding, whether it be like, hey, we're going to go sit at the beach or play tag. I don't know, whatever. 18-year-olds, they love to play frisbee around here, so play frisbee.
Take them disc golfing. It's like frisbee.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if they do that here. It's
I bet they do.
I think that's probably a good like mental health thing though, like to get away from the computers itself and like put it as part of policies, especially for esports, like go touch grass. I know that everyone says that and we kind of meme about it as a joke, but at the same time, I think it's good to get that physical activity in, and just to be outside your facility doing something as a community with more than just the players, as your entire esports program, getting those casters and your broadcast team together, the photographers, just everyone together and having them be a community and getting to know each other.
We did that. We had at Ferris, we had an annual kickball tournament or a kickball event day where we just come out and play. And one of the biggest memories that a lot of kids have happen on that day. So it's outside of the gaming, it's outside of other stuff. One year, a kid was driving by the kickball field after giving his senior presentation in a full suit, and he's like, "I just want to kick one kick," and he kicked a home run, and like everybody was losing their minds, and he like ended up staying and playing the whole game in his full like nice suit. And that was like a really cool memory, and it actually got voted as second for moment of the year for all of our program. And we had 130 kids like on multiple different teams, and like this was like in so many people's minds as like in such a sick event as a part of the year. So I think helping your kids build those experiences outside of just the games can really help grow the program as a whole, because it's not just the kids in their games interacting as well, like you said.
Okay, so I like that we kind of have a panel here that Beth, you're a student, and then we have high school and collegiate in here, 'cause everyone's a leader in their own right, and we can't always be everyone's friend. We kind of have to be professional. We have to be adults. But is that part of like a mental health burnout? What are some boundaries and advice do you have when it comes to work-life balance, working with students and setting those boundaries?
Oof, this is a tough one. I get a lot of DMs now, just from random questions, and it's just more of like conversations. And so they know that I'm awake or they know they can talk to me. And then sometimes it's like, well, if they ask me a work question and then now I've not set the expectation that I can answer them anytime. They know I'm there. That's the one part I think I kind of struggle with because, if you like them, you're like, I don't want to leave anyone on red or make sure they don't stress out about it. But you kind of have to. And say I wish Discord could set like the same as emails where you set a schedule to a respond. So like, hey, I technically responded, but it won't respond till tomorrow. That would be beautiful. Can somebody make a bot? I would like that. Jono, you have to know somebody who worked in IT.
That would be nice. For me, my policy is like I'll get back to you within 24 hours. If it's not that urgent, it may take a bit longer. The students know that when I was at Ferris, I was probably getting 50 new DMs a day, like different conversations with people. I couldn't. There are some days if I had stuff to do, I can't just sit there and answer stuff all day. So I would tell people the first time they go to message me, I was like, by the way, I really want to talk to you. Like, if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. Just know that it might take a while, and I'm like going through the DMs in like priority list. So if you need something and it's been like 3 days, feel free to DM me again because chances are I went to start to type, walked away, or something came up and it disappeared. If it's not in my unread list, then it's gone. But setting that expectation of like, yeah, you might see me online or like tweeting or talking about Twitch or whatever with my friends, but that doesn't necessarily mean I can answer your question at all times. I'll answer it before it's important, but also remembering that an emergency on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. Like I don't have to, like if you waited till the last second to do something, if it's my job to help you, yeah, sure, I'll help you when I can, but don't wait till the last second and I'll get back to you within reason during work times.
That's what I said. Office hours.
Is it different working with high school students in that matter? Because I know with college students, some of these kids, especially when I first started working, were literally my peers 3 weeks prior. So it was kind of like a different situation for me where I had to really set kind of harsh boundaries very quickly. Is that different at a high school level?
I would say from my experience with the high school level, especially with like esports students, is there's some different laws involved, right? Because they're all like teenagers. So if you have like a Discord server that you use, like you gotta kind of have an eye on it. At least I would try to, because there was even like a situation like my very first year where I started getting blown up, and I told them all like, hey, like if it's after like 5, you're not getting me unless it's like a night we're doing something. And I knew something was up because I kept getting them. And when I looked, it was like a kid had figured out how to like fish a login for one of the admin of the school and was getting in changing grades. And I was like, oh, this just became a thing. So definitely have to kind of have an eye on it because it's like a social media law that like, if you see it, then like you have a responsibility, like a mandatory report, right? And so I typically preface that with them when we're like, hey, we're gonna do a Discord. Here's kind of what the rules are with this, right? In most part, they kind of follow along. Sometimes they'll do something goofy, or like, what was it, about a month ago, I had kids that started messaging me, and I looked, and it was because a teenage boy clicked on a link he shouldn't have, which then got access and started posting a link and through all the Discord channels, and so all the high school kids started going nuts because it was like the in bio type thing, right? And I was like, this is great. And so then that required like parent communication and so on and so forth. So it does get a little more eyes on. And you can rely on student leadership for that too. Like tell the captains like, hey, if you want to keep your team, like you got to kind of help me keep an eye on this, and I'll keep alerts on for them. As far as a slightly different approach on it, not just students, but like with CFGC, like there's a few things that we do that like, for one, like we have a no Saturday rule where like you can work and post stuff in the Discord on Saturdays, but no one's required or like expected to answer, right? That's our day of like, just leave us alone. And I'll look Sunday, and I kind of learned pretty quick, especially with having 500 college students in it, is that like I would look back on Sunday and it's just like the meme of like the fire going on, like this is fine. And I'm like, why are you guys yelling about politics? Like, what's happening? You're yelling about economics now. This is a fighting games Discord. And so balancing that is kind of odd. Get kind of used to it. The other one is setting the boundaries with directors, because we had a lot come in that, like, at the beginning of the season, we kind of changed format, and they were being pretty harsh, and it was pretty bad. So I put a Discord wide message out because Albie was getting hateful stuff, and our TOs were getting stuff. And I was like, I will kick you out in a heartbeat if you come at my people like that, and just set that tone. Like, and then Albie's like, hey man, like, because Albie has a good relationship. Like, he's like that face. He's a fighting games kid. Like, he's in there, and he runs an awesome ship as far as TOing goes. But like, I kind of take it on, like, if I'm gonna have a CO title, I guess I'm the muscle, right? And so that's kind of what I've done, is just I set that tone, like, hey, you're not gonna talk to my people like that. It's just never gonna happen. If that's the way you're gonna come in like this, go find the other college esports stuff for fighting games, and then you can message me back when you realize it doesn't exist. So, but yeah, that's me.
I do the same thing a lot with students too. Like, inclusivity is a big thing for me. I want to make sure that everyone feels welcome, and if you go against it in any way, it's instant removal from the program. At least it was like at Ferris and at MSU. I haven't had any problems with that. We've a lot less students, and they're very well trained. Chris did a great job with that. But at Ferris, we accepted everybody. It wasn't like varsity and club were like kind of the same thing. And so my policies were very strict. Everybody knew that. I'm very relational. I like to talk. I like to hang out. I like to kind of chill. The kids know me pretty well. So sometimes like people would like, oh, hey, like let things slip that they shouldn't have. And I would let them know very well, like quickly, that's not okay. If it was something very, very minor, then it's a very stern talking to, like in that moment, like, hey, do not do that. Come to my office and have a talk. And if it's something even slightly bad, then like I've removed kids from the program for what other people seem very minor things, but I don't stand by that at all. In programs that do, I don't believe in very much at all, because it's your job as the director, as the leader. These kids aren't here to be your friends. I have my friends that aren't my students, right? You're here to teach them what it is to be a correct person, so make sure you stand by that.
Yeah, Jason, you said something I find really fascinating that it made me think is like, us as directors and assistant directors and coaches and whatever title you are leading the program, we're all wearing multiple hats. And I think we should do a better job at pausing and thinking about the people leading those conferences. If we're wearing multiple hats, they are also wearing multiple hats. And so I've seen it more than once where people are not waiting for responses and they want immediate action. Now, of course, if it's during a tournament, that's one thing where it's like, I need a decision. But if it's like a silly question that's not an emergency, I think that we could all just pause and be like, hey, they're probably putting out 47 fires and this is not actually a fire. So, I mean, I guess you kind of already said it, so I don't know if you have anything to add to it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, it's easy to jump in and just see it as like just a competition. We're just here for that. We're doing that thing, and not realize that, like, also the people behind the scenes are overwhelmingly probably students as well, right? And so here they are, is like, hey, I'm a student out here learning, doing things. There's gonna be hiccups. I need to learn how to deal with that too, right? But then here's a grown person coming at me for something minor, and it's like, no, this is not gonna happen with me. And like, I think of like what I deal with mine, and then like on the other end of that, I look at like poor JJ probably is just like has to have a suit of armor that no one else has ever seen, right? Because I
didn't want to say his name. I was just it was
no,
JJ.
I'll put him out there. That guy, he's the legend for a reason. Like, I watch what he deals with, and I'm like, I'm scared. But yeah, so like it's a different experience on this end, kind of dealing with that stuff. So it's I don't know. It's interesting, and it's the same way. It's like, hey, here's what I deal with, and here's what I'm putting on, right? The same way if you're a director, like, hey, here's my purpose, and here's what we're putting on. Here's my lines in the sand, right? And you control what you can control. And in my case, like, I can. This sounds terrible. I can kind of control what I want, right? But there's still like that respect there of, I can't be too much of a jerk because we want these people around, and just because one of them, I don't know if they had a bad night, but I have noticed that like if I'm firm, like, hey, I'm understanding, I'm firm, I get where you're coming from, but we're not going to do this. And I stick to that gun, that kind of smooths a lot of problems out. Whereas, like, there were times in my life before where I'd be like, well, let's have a full conversation about this. Like, hey, yeah, we might be able to bend these rules a little bit. And once I found that, like, if you just have the same standard across the board, then it smooths a lot of wrinkles out. And as far as mental health wise, it's you kind of get like, hey, like, outside of extenuating circumstances, I know how to handle this. I'm going to do that, and then I can move on. So,
Good question. Beth, as a student and a mom, obviously, what are some things like you think that we could help make your life easier? Not necessarily you specifically, but you're speaking for all the students because you are all the students right now. But what are some
Right
things
now,
that
I can't speak for everybody.
Yes, yes. I'm saying you are, so you are allowed to. So what are some things like you think that we could do that might help or I don't know, advice?
I think making those boundaries very clear in the beginning. That's something I learned like maybe within the past 10 years or so. Like I have to set my own boundaries, so I fully understand that the teachers have to set their own as well. Like if they say, "Hey, I'm not available after 6 p.m." and if your assignment is due on Sunday, then you need to ask me by Friday. If they didn't ask by Friday, then that's because they had poor time management. I think just making sure that that is very clear and upfront is probably the best for both people because then they can plan. I think even when it comes to like, hey, like a Discord server, I also help out with a esports org's Discord, and they know like, hey, after 11 p.m. you're not gonna get me, like, so like they know between this time and this time. So it'd be that same thing of like, hey, create the boundary, make it very just clear. Any details, just putting them up front so it's very clear and obvious. That's probably the best thing I could say.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of replying to a message once at like 8 p.m. And I didn't have my notifications turned to invisible. I just had it on, and then I turned it to invisible afterwards. And then I got an email the next morning. The team had gotten together that night and wrote this long email to my boss. They just went over me about how horrible I was, and it just like spiraled from there. And it's because I responded, and then I didn't respond after that to their message, and it's just like I just shouldn't have done that, and I didn't set that boundary, and it's like I should have just waited. And it's like when you have Discord so easily accessible on your phone or at your computer if you're playing, it's sometimes so hard to just not look at those messages. And I'm definitely not one of those people that have thousands of red icons on my phone. I just have to look, and that's just me having to see it, that get rid of that notification, and I need to get better at that myself. But I think that's one thing that my mental health needs to like just put it on pause and just step away from technology. I've done that a lot actually this past semester. I haven't looked at social media as much, and I've kind of stepped away from a lot because of what happened with my work and my depression and everything. So I just kind of like stepped away from everything, and I've gotten a lot better because of it.
One thing too, I like reminding my students that I'm a person, because it's like, hey, I'm not available to answer your questions 24/7. Like I'll tell them, if especially whenever like, hey, if I don't message back on like after weekends, like nights or weekends, I might be going out with my friends, and I'm not gonna respond to students when I'm like drinking or whatever, right? Like that's not something that I do. Remember, I'm a person too. Or I've had arguments that were kind of minor arguments that students would be in my DMs about, and I'll just respond back with like, let's deal with this when I'm getting paid. Like it's 8 p.m. on a Friday. I'm not getting paid till Monday. This is such a non. And I know in my head they're going to be fine with it by Monday. They're just angry about something little now, and so I really just want to give them time. But they'll be mad if I just say like, "Hey, sit on it." So I just kind of give them a more real answer and one that they can kind of relate to and not really be mad at. And then come Monday, I've had most of the time they'll be like, "Hey, sorry, that was dumb. I didn't really care that much, or it wasn't that big of a deal, and we figured it out." It's like me and this guy were fighting, and we're cool now. And it's like, yeah, I knew that would happen, but also reminding them like I'm a person too. I have an actual life outside of this. If you talk to I think that's a big part of mental health in general is not just being so hyper focused on one aspect of your personality. Like if you ask most of my friends who I am, like they don't even bring up my work at all, even though I spend 8 hours a day doing that. And so like you have to remember that what you do isn't necessarily who you are. I love what I do. I love talking about it. It's a big on a bunch of stuff that I do. But my like IRL friends that I've had for 15, 20 years, we run a crew of like 15 to 20 deep, depending on the time. And like those guys like don't care what I do. Like half of them just do random stuff, and then we hang out on the weekends and nights. And so, remembering to stick to those types of relationships and put yourself in those situations and not give it all to work. Because again, if I died tomorrow, work would hire a new me in 2 months minimum, or like the latest. So like you have to be there for other people as well. So it's not just you as work, but you as yourself too.
It's perfect, Jono. Don't let their work define who you are. I'm similar. I have friends that are visiting, and none of them, quite a few of them, most of them don't play video games. So it's like a really kind of a culture shock, because if my work and all of my other conversations were consumed by esports and video games, and then I'm forced, it's kind of refreshing to go back to almost real life, so to speak, where you're like not everything revolves around that. Or if I am talking about it, we're talking about more of the budgeting and the finance side of it, which would be any job, but or any job that you're a leader. But yeah, I absolutely love that. That's work-life balance, my friend. Good job. Good on you. I'm proud of you.
I will add on to that. I know, and this is I thought it was just like a teacher thing, but I found it in esports a lot too. Is that it can be because commonly I hear like we're doing everything we're doing for the students, right? And which I think everyone that's in these fields, right, agree to that. Like it's what you're doing, but you're still a human. But I found often that gets weaponized against you, right? And the times that's happened to me where it's like, hey, I can't do this. Like I'm drained. Like for me when I was early in my career, like, and I still deal with it, is I had like PTSD from like my time in Iraq, and I had TBI, so I had to like return to think, all that kind of stuff, and I had like previous issues with addiction, and I was still dealing with like, how do I deal with like such a concentrated career like this while dealing with mental health? And then anytime that was weaponized against me, it's like it just compounds on that, right? Until I learned how to like get to a point to deal with that, where it's like I have my kids now, and like we're dealing with grades on my high school level, like finishing that up, and I ground out to get as much as I could done, but now they're kind of turning in late work, and I'll get an email like, "Hey, I submitted this," and then 10 minutes later, "Hey, what grade did I get?" Like you'll get that response when I grade it. Like that's a long list, and you're at the bottom of it right now, big dog. So I found that at times that weaponized, especially, and no one's ever said it in a good way. I think most people just say it because they're trying to get a point across or whatever. So, but that's always what I think of when, and and the reason I brought that up is I found myself doing that just now. Of anytime I think like, hey, it's best to do this thing for us or set these boundaries, that's always lurking in the back of my head because it's been said so much, right?
So I laugh. I don't mean to laugh in that moment. Sari just responded with the notifications. That lady has the most notifications ever. She should. Hey, here. How about this? There's a plug. If you want to see Sari's notifications, maybe she'll take a screenshot and share it in the Discord.
One thing with Discord too that I see a lot of people underutilize, you can mute servers and you can mute pings from those servers. I'm in probably 175 total servers. I actively get pings from like 5 to 10, and I get like text pings from 2. Like, there's only two. It's my work server and my personal friend server are the only time I get an actual notification if someone types. And I'm in a lot of group chats and stuff as well. And so Streamer, a lot of people go on Do Not Disturb because you won't get the ping sound, but it kind of feels unfriendly to students if they see like, oh, maybe I don't want to bother them. So what I do is I turn Streamer mode on. So I turn Streamer mode on and it disables the ping sounds. So even if people are typing and all that stuff's coming up, and I'm in a situation like where I'm at home gaming at night and I want to see online, I want to see people with that friendly little green bubble, but I don't want those notifications and sounds. You can Discord is very good if you custom tailor your stuff, and that way, like when I know I have a Discord notification, when I see one on my phone or see the little red one pop up, I know it's from somewhere important that I have to go check on it now, which helps me get to the actual important things in a timely manner as well.
I go full nuke sometimes, and the little white dot that pops up drives me nuts too. And then sometimes I'll even have a bunch of the red because I only have like 5 or 6 I actually get the red from. I'll just right click clear. I'm like,
Yep.
They'll get back to me later. I need a peace of mind right now.
Yep.
Don't text Jono on his cell phone because he won't answer that.
Discord is my parents text me through Discord. My mom calls me through Discord. If you want to get a hold of me, I've got a separate monitor that's Discord only. It's on my phone. I've been trying to get better about texting. It's just not. It's texting like Facebook Messenger are the 2 ways that people get a hold of me, or my Snapchat group chats. But that's just like my friends from 15 years ago, and they all keep me on Discord too. Sorry,
I get Discord messages from the other room. So.
Really? From your kids?
Yeah.
They don't teach them Discord. Now they know how. They're like, come do this. You're like, no, you can get up and ask me.
Or they'll yell it across the house, but normally it's just Discord.
So I have a question for everyone. I think we should go around as a circle. I think that Jackie's mic has died as a slow death. It's a beautiful color, just so everybody knows. But we'll start with Jason. So basically the question is, what are some last minute advice that you have for all our coffee beans that are listening and going to watch this later because they're all great, about mental health and how to stay positive?
Ooh, yeah, staying positive. That's something that I found I train on, right? Like I've been brought up from a young age and through the military just to naturally hate myself. And so I have to train on it. I have to make conscious efforts. And what I found that the best thing that helps me on those, especially I know very common with most dealing with imposter syndrome, is I just say it out loud, right? I think actually I put it in the start of the day when we finished up CFGC where I was like, hey, I'm going to give myself a break from this imposter syndrome for a minute and just say I did a damn thing, right? Like, it was awesome. And that, just saying that in a public space, like, gave me, like, not even, like, the fact that people would respond. It was just, like, I got it out, right? I got it out of my system. And so, taking some moment to brag about yourself. And then, my ultimate trick, and this is mine, is I have, like, 2 shows that I watch on repeat that I probably watched 1,000 times. And if you ask my wife, she probably has PTSD from the King of the Hill theme song. Because I just let that sucker roll. Because there's comfort in, like, I know it's going to happen, right? The anxiety calms down because it's going to come through, and I allow that moment. And then, but yeah, it's just, you got to work on it. And sometimes just the fact of working on it brings some good feelings. And also, if you have a cat, just huff that bad boy, and you'll feel great.
Yeah, you full circle to the cats. Now do I need a cat? I'm not getting a cat.
No, get your cat. Get your couple cats.
Am I back?
No.
Yay.
Yes, you are.
Old unplugged replug.
I guess let's go. Beth, do you want to go, or I can make Jono go? I
can. I think one thing to remember is that everybody's workflow looks different. Like, one person can do 1,000 things per day, and sometimes just getting out of bed, you achieved something. I would say to set reminders to do things if you are the type of person that forgets. You don't have to have a full set calendar. It's not going to work for everybody. You might just look at it and be like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do this. But, it's the attempt, Or if you meet a cat or another animal. But I would keep reminding yourself that just because somebody else can do the 17,852 things a day doesn't mean that you have to do it. You know, everybody's a little different. Everybody's work is going to be a little different. Everybody learns differently. So I think that's the most important.
I kind of have a two-part answer here. The first part is kind of the practical advice I recommend to everybody. The lesson that I learned a while ago that really helped me out is the way the human body functions with dopamine is when you're sleeping, you create a bunch of dopamine, right? Then throughout the day, you can kind of basically squeeze that, and then you get that. If you do very high, like strong squeezes early in the morning, you're kind of depleting a lot of your dopamine earlier in the day. So I typically tend to do the stuff I don't like to do in the morning. I don't really like to go to the gym, but I want to make sure it's a habit I do. I don't want to go for a run, but it's a habit I want to build. So I do those things early in the morning. I do a lot of my chores. I do my work. All that's like all the big tasks. Even when I first get to work, I do the big tasks that I know are annoying and I don't want to do. And then as the day goes on, I go into the more fun, more interesting stuff. And then at night, I do stuff like play video games. And those are the stronger squeezes that get the dopamine out. And I find that I'm still having a good time. I'm still kind of energized. I don't need motivation to do my tasks if they're self-motivating, and they're like, motivation is fighting through the lack of dopamine, fighting through the lack of reward for that. You don't only need motivation if you've kind of tapped yourself out and you're kind of continuing to that. You can build these habits that help make the harder things easier in the morning and still get that dopamine reward without having to squeeze as hard. And then the second one is kind of more personally, mental health wise. I've been described as like confident almost to the point of arrogance. And I very much believe in myself, and I know that like when I wake up, I can do it, and I just have to get it done. So like things don't really kind of, a lot of people said, you know, things they say bad stuff to me. A lot of stuff kind of doesn't, it just bounces off. And I'm not sure why, but I've just always believed in myself and knowing that I can do it. Have I had imposter syndrome? Absolutely. I went from being a student to the director of the program in 3 weeks, right? From I graduated and then took the reins of the program. My last duty as a student worker with the department was to write my job description that I then applied for and worked for at Paris. And so like but also like I walked in day one and like I was the same person that people were kind of ignoring me in meetings and not listening to what I had to say because they're like, oh, you're just a student. Why are you in those meetings? And then the next month I come in and they're like, oh, hey, you know, we're excited to hear all your new ideas. I had really long hair and I cut it off. Some of the people literally didn't recognize me, but they believed in my ideas at that time. And it was frustrating just knowing like, hey, you didn't believe me before, but I always believed in myself and I knew that I had good ideas. And just if you think you're in faking that too, a lot of the times I didn't believe in myself, but I faked like I did, and other people just it looks exactly the same. That's something I tell my students in my classes. When you're giving a presentation, don't tell me like, oh, I did it last night, it sucks. Even if it's the same thing, tell me like, here's everything is great and here's why. And if you did something wrong, lie to me about why it's intentional, and the people will believe it. There have been plenty of projects where I've had mistakes and I just go like, hey, actually I like the art style of this, well it actually just didn't render out in time or whatever. And you can kind of get people on your side that way as well.
Thank you. Jackie, you.
My mic's working. Okay, so mine is be kind to yourself. Along with Mental Health Month, depression is real. And it's okay to be depressed. People go through different phases of it. I went through a really, really deep depression at the beginning of the year, and I feel like I'm finally like getting out of it. And I think it's okay to talk about depression, and I think it's healthy. I think when we stop talking about our mental health and make it like hidden, I think that's when it starts getting darker and deeper, and I think that's when serious things start happening. So I think it's good to talk about, and I think it's also good to reach out to people and just remind them of positive things. And that's why I reach out to people, just to ask them how they're doing, or just to like say hi. And I encourage everyone to just do that daily, just to one person. Just be like, hey, how are you doing? I saw you mentioned something, I just want to say hi. And to just be kind to yourself through what you're going through. This past year, I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but I've struggled a lot more, and the economy it just sucks. I feel like it just sucks in general. Like 2024 wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and like I feel like it's getting better, but it's just, I have to remind myself that it will get better, and it's okay to have like downs, and to just remind myself that I'm okay.
If you feel also like you don't have a community or you don't have friends, please just reach out to people. I've made a ton of friends. I went to the Overwatch League Grand Finals. If you can't tell, I'm a big Overwatch fan. I was going with two of the guys that I used to play on my collegiate team with. Well, there was a director that I knew that liked Overwatch, Lamar, and I just said, "Hey, do you want to like? We have 3 people in a hotel room. Hotels can sleep 4. Do you want to just come with us? You can stay with us." And he ended up going, and I ended up having a great time with him. Like I'd hung out with him, like I think at events before. I had like kind of seen him and vaguely knew he was in Overwatch. We talked a decent bit there, but I was just like, hey, just come with us for the weekend. And now like I consider Lamar a pretty good friend. So like, just reach out to people. I'm known for just randomly DMing people on Discord and Twitter. It's just like, hey, do you want to play games? Do you want to do this stuff? Like I just like making new friends and meeting new people. And so don't feel afraid of that. It just keep shooting it. If there's a ton of people have said no that I want to, like that's fine. It's not a personal slight on me. I don't feel less because of them saying no. It's just I keep trying.
Well, you never know if you don't try, right? And then a thing we all need to remember, like Jackie said, life ebbs and flows. Yes. So I am like Jono, where it doesn't necessarily have to do with the dopamine for me. It has to do with I am not going to work out if I don't do it when I first get up. So I make sure to get up not necessarily early, but that's the first thing I do. I don't have time to talk myself out of it. I don't have time to be like, I'm so tired, where I could have just sat at my computer and answered emails. I didn't do anything that would make me tired. I came from healthcare, so I was walking 12,000 steps a day before this job, and that kind of just stopped. So making sure, like, being self-aware is you have to listen to your body and be intuitive. That's another thing. And I would say disconnect, guys. Like, just even if it's for 15 minutes, put your phone down, put the TV down, put computer down, whatever screen it is. It's not always nice in the Midwest, but go outside and take some deep breaths and pause and just I get sucked into TikTok a lot, and I'm trying not to, but it's that dopamine hits, right? So just pausing for a minute is important.
If you want a good place to start with that, just don't consume media in the shower. Don't listen to music. I've had friends that played Hearthstone like every time they went to shower. It's like, do you not have a single second during the day where your brain is just off and you can think? Like humans were evolved to have like hours and hours to sit and think. Shower
Right.
Hearthstone, yeah, like that's like they were just so consumed with media all day that like they couldn't even like spend 15 minutes in the shower to just not like play and think. Like just spend that time and think. Like use your brain. Like go outside if it's a walk. Like if you need that baby step, like start there.
Karen Ruggles
You
and I
just-
just talked about that.
You just told me that I was. We're not so bad. I don't look at my phone in the shower. I'm not gonna ruin that. That thing's like $1,500.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. Like we said, this quarter is going to be a little bit different. We really appreciate you guys coming on and talking about mental health and bringing us back for our first episode for this quarter. Our next show will be Wednesday, May 29th, where we're going to have, again, more special guests. And it will be our student-run episode where they're going to talk about a day in the life of a collegiate athlete. That'll be May 29th. 2 weeks.
Yeah. We want to big thank you guys. We really appreciate you guys coming on the show. It's nice to do a little bit something different, so to speak, with just I love our head baristas, but it's nice to kind of like open the door for other people to tell their stories. Or give their perspectives. That's what makes us beautiful and unique, sharing our thoughts and opinions. So thank you a ton. And join the Discord. I don't know if we said that. Follow us on social media. Have a further conversation. You know, I don't know what's on Thursday. Healthy Thursday?
Tip yourself Thursdays.
Yep.
No. Hit yourself?
Tip yourself. Tip yourself.
I thought it was Wednesdays.
No, it's One Good Thing Wednesday.
Oh,
You don't even know you're on server?
Listen. I am trying to do better. This is the best I got for today. So anyway, I bet you've all been waiting for this, those that are not a part of the normal stream. Hey guys, are we all out of coffee or whatever beverage of your choice?
I'm almost.
Yeah.
Tea, but
All right.
Yay!
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.